You're watching Rurouni K95's movie review on Spider-Man. Hi Ruronis, this is your pal Rurouni K95 here. Today's movie review, we haven't done one in quite a while. With today's movie review is Spider-Man. Spider-Man is a 2002 American superhero film based on the Marvel Comics character of the same name, directed by Sam Raimi from a screenplay by David Cope. It is the first installment in the Spider-Man trilogy, and it stars Tobey Maguire as the title character alongside Willem Dafoe, Kirsten Dunst, James Franco, Cliff Robertson, and Rosemary Harris. The film centers on the outcast teen genius Peter Parker, who develops spider-like superhuman abilities after being bitten by a genetically altered spider. After their progress on the film stalled for nearly 25 years, it was licensed for a worldwide release by Columbia Pictures in 1999. After acquired options from Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer on all previous scripts developed by Cannon Films, Carolco, and New Cannon as well, which we'll get to that in one moment. So let's review the movie. On a school trip, high school senior Peter Parker visits a Columbia University genetics laboratory with his friend Harry Orbison and his crush Mary Jane Watson. There, Peter is bitten by a genetically engineered super spider and seemingly falls ill after returning home. Meanwhile, Harry's scientist father, Norman Orbison Osborn, yeah, because Harry Osborn is the father is Norman Osborn, owner of Oscorp, tries to secure an important military contact. He experiments on himself and with an unstoppable performance, enhancing a chemical and goes insane, killing his assistant in the process. The next morning, Peter finds he is no longer nearsighted and his body has metamorphosed into a muscular physique at school. He finds his body can produce webs and reflexes let him avoid injury during a confrontation with bully Flash Thompson. Peter discovers he has developed superhuman speed and strength, the ability to stick to surfaces, and a heightened ability to sense danger. Brushing off his uncle Ben's advice, with great power comes great responsibility. Peter considers impressing Mary Jane with the car. He enters an underground fighting tournament to raise money and wins his first match, but the promoter cheats him of his earnings when a thief suddenly robs the promoter's office. However, Peter allows him to escape. Moments later, he discovers Ben was carjacked and killed. Peter pursues and confronts the carjacker, only to realize it was the thief who he let escape. After Peter disarms him, the carjacker flees but dies after falling out a window. Meanwhile, a crazed Norman interrupts a military experiment by Oscorp's corporal at rival Quest Aerospace and kills several people. What you see in the movie. Upon graduating, Peter began using his abilities to fight injustice, donning a costume in the persona of Spider-Man. J. Jonah Jameson, publisher of the Daily Bungle newspaper, hires Peter as a freelance photographer, since Peter is the only person providing clear images of Spider-Man. Norman, upon learning Oscorp's board plans to force him out in the order to sell the company to Quest, assassinates them. At the World Unity Fair, Jameson dubs the mysterious killer the Green Goblin. Norman, as the Green Goblin, kidnaps Spider-Man and offers him a place at his side. However, Norman ambushes Peter in a burning building. Peter refuses Norman's offer, and they fight. During the fight, Peter is wounded but escapes. At Thanksgiving dinner, Peter's Aunt May invites Mary Jane, Harry, and Norman During the dinner, Norman sees the wound and realizes Peter's identity. Shortly after he leaves, Norman attacks and hospitalizes May. Mary Jane admits she is infatuated with Spider-Man, who has rescued her on numerous occasions, and asks Peter whether Spider-Man ever asks about her. Harry who is dating Mary Jane, arrives and presumes she has feelings for Peter after seeing them hold hands. Devastated, Harry tells his father that Peter loves Mary Jane unintentionally, revealing Spider-Man's biggest weakness. Norman holds Mary Jane and a Roosevelt Island team car full of children hostage. Alongside the Queensboro Bridge, he offers Peter to choose whom he wants to save and drops Mary and save the children. Peter saves both Mary and the tram car, while Norman is jeered by civilians who side with Spider-Man. So, Norman then grabs Peter, throws him into an abandoned building, and brutally beats him. When Norman boasts about he will later kill Mary Jane, an enraged Peter overpowers Norman. Norman reveals himself to Peter, who stops attacking. Norman begs for forgiveness, but at the same time controls his glider to try to impale his foe. Warned by his spider sense, Peter dodges the attack and glider fatality impales Norman instead. Norman tells Peter not to reveal his goblin's identity to Harry before dying. Peter takes Norman's body back to the Osborn house. Harry arrives to find him standing over his father's body. Harry seizes a gun intent on shooting Peter, but Peter escapes and hides Norman's equipment. Later, at Norman's funeral, Harry swears vengeance towards Spider-Man, whom he deems responsible for his father's death, and asserts that Peter is all the family he has left. Mary confesses to Peter she's in love with him. Peter, however, he feels he must protect her from the unwanted attention of his enemies, so he hides his true feelings and tells Mary Jane they can be only friends. As Peter leaves the funeral, as he recalls Ben's words, and accepts his new responsibility as Spider-Man. So that's my review on Spider-Man. So on April 1999, although Sony Pictures optioned for a Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, all preceding the script versions of a Spider-Man film, it only exercised the options on the Cameron material, which contractually included a multi-author screenplay and a 40-page script credited only to James Cameron. The studio announced they were not hiring James Cameron himself to direct the film, nor would they be using his script. The studio aligned to Roland Emmerich, Tony Scott, Chris Columbus, Ang Lee, David Fincher, Jan de Bont, and M. Night Shyamalan as potential directors. Fincher did not want to depict the origin story, pitching the film as being based on the night's Gwen Stacy died storyline, but the studio disagreed. Sam Raimi, who is the director of Drag Me to Hell, was attached to direct in January 2000 for a summer 2001 release. He had been a fan of the comic book during his youth, and his passion for Spider-Man earned him the job. Cameron's work became the basis for David Koepp's first draft screenplay, often word for word, however. Cameron's versions of the Marvel villains Electro and Sandman remained the antagonists. Koepp's E. White substituted the Green Goblin as the main antagonist, and added Dr. Octopus as the secondary antagonist, which is probably later on in Spider-Man 2, I guess. Yeah. Raimi felt the Goblin and the surrogate father-son theme between Norman Osborn and Peter Parker would be more interesting, thus he dropped Dr. Octopus from the film. In June, Columbia hired Scott Rosenberg to rewrite David Koepp's material. remaining a constant in all the rewrites about how it was the organic web shooter idea from the Cameron scriptment. Yeah. So Sam Raimi felt he would stretch the audience's suspension of disbelief to have Peter invent mechanical web shooters. Rosenberg removed Dr. Octopus and several new action sequences. Raimi felt adding the third origin story would make the film too complex. Sequences removed from the final film had Spider-Man protecting Vargas, the wheelchair, using a obscure executive from the Goblin, and Spider-Man defusing a hostage situation on the train. As production neared, producer Laura Ziskin hired award-winning writer Alvin Sargent to polish the dialogue primarily between Peter Parker and Mary Jane. Columbia gave the writers of Guild America a list of 4 writers as contributors for the final Spider-Man script. However, Rosenberg, Sargent, and James Cameron, all of the 3 whom voluntarily relinquished credit to the 4th Cope. Now, if this was Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man movie, or Spider-Man Into the Void, then I would have been compelled for later on in the future movie reviews to have it on full blast if we ever want to see a Spider-Man movie to start with. But it's Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, the one that came out in 2002, starring Tobey Maguire. With the cast, filming was set to begin November 2000 in New York City, and on the Sony soundstages, the film was set for release a year later, but when the film was postponed to be released on May 3rd, 2002, filming officially began on January 8, 2001 in Culver City after the terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001, which is the 9/11 attacks. However, certain sequences were refilmed and certain images of the Twin Towers were digitally erased from the film because of the September 11, 2001 attacks. That's why. And Sony's Stage 29 was used for Parker's Forest Hills homes, and Stage 29 was used for the wrestling sequence where Peter Parker takes on Bonesaw McGraw, played by the infamous wrestler from the WWE Wrestling, Randy Savage. On Stage 27 was also used for the complex Times Square sequence where Spider-Man and the Goblin battle for the first time, and where the 3-story set with a breakaway balcony piece was built, which is the same location in Times Square in New York City. Just like the ones that was found on the location where the Hulk was running in Times Square in the Incredible Hulk episode Terror in Times Square from the first season of the 1978 Incredible Hulk TV series. But for Spider-Man, however, the scene is also required shooting in Downey, California. On March 6, 45-year-old construction worker Tim Holcomb was killed when the forklift was modified as a construction crane and crashed into a construction basket that he was in. The following court case led to the California Division of Occupational Safety and Health to fine Sony $58,805. Wow. Yeah, because this is the first. Yeah, Spider-Man premiered at the Mann Village Theater on April 29th, 2002, but it later premiered worldwide on May 3rd, 2002. When it was released in the United States 4 days later, on May 3rd, the film received positive reviews from audiences and critics who praised Raimi's direction and tone, the faithfulness and the fidelity to the Spider-Man mythos, the action sequences, the visual effects, and Danny Elfman's musical score, and the performance of the cast, particularly Dafoe and Maguire. So that's going to be from my movie review on Spider-Man. Thank you for watching, but before we go, here's my thoughts on Spider-Man. Because, once again, I decided to do a superhero movie review on Spider-Man for the first time, which I haven't done in a while, I guess. Subscribe for content, my anime plan, link in the description down below. You can share this video on your Twitter, Facebook account, and all social media. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up by clicking on the like button on this video. Feel free to leave it in the comment section below this video. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, RooneyK95. Feel free to join my channel, especially if you're new to my channel. Hit the notifications bell button. Be sure to get notified on your emails, and I got another movie review coming up for next Saturday. Stay tuned for next time on my next movie review, because we're going to be back in black with Men in Black. Stay tuned for my next movie review for next Saturday. Until next time.